Just a quick thumbs up to let me know that audio and video are good. Already tons of chatter in the chat room. Steven and Rion and Mark and Mr. LePan is high apparently. Jack, Scott, thanks for coming, guys. Gaston, Carl, Robert, Mikhail, Brad, Matthias, Paul, Andy. How's it going, Andy? Miss you on the Hangouts, bud. How's life in Detroit? Turkey. Wow. Paul, it is early for you in Australia, isn't it? Man, it is like crazy early. Or is it crazy? It's probably like crazy late. Either or. It's really, it is the middle of the night for you, sir, I believe. I could be wrong. Sweet. 6:30. Ah, not too shabby. Okay. Cool. I guess it means everybody can hear me. Sweet. So, really exciting. I know a lot of you in the chat room already got Foundation 6. Either you bought it last week or you got it during the conference this year. And hopefully you've been enjoying it. A lot of really, really great, strong feedback from pretty much everybody. So yeah, I'm really excited about that. It kind of validates that what I'm doing here is good. You guys are really excited about the new workflow. It seems you're seeing the power. And yeah, I'm just, again, really, really excited about that. So thank you very much for all the great feedback that you've been giving me so far. We are 1 week from launch, and pretty nervous actually, because still got a lot of work to do, right? So still a lot of work to do, but in a week, I am launching this bad boy. We are launching the day before Thanksgiving. Not sure if that's a great idea or not, but whatever. We're launching the day before Thanksgiving, and yeah, hopefully it'll be a really great launch. I'm really excited about it, so thank you very much. If you didn't, before I begin, if you didn't watch last week's, I'm not going to review any of that. So we kind of reviewed site styles and some of the layout stacks and a couple other things. And I'm going to try not to duplicate what I did last week because there's still so much more to review today. I have already put the link if you want to purchase. It is, the shopping cart is open again. I will throw it in the chat box right now. This is the upgrade link. Okay. And so that is the upgrade link for Foundation 6. If you need if you don't own Foundation 6 at all, I haven't generated a link for that yet. So yeah, maybe you'll have to wait for next week. I put in a lot of details. I know I got a lot of emails about, some of the special upgrade pricing and whatnot that I announced. And I just got blasted with emails after the live stream. So I put a post up on Weaver Space yesterday. I think it was yesterday, or maybe it was Monday. So make sure you read that. It has all the details about what's going to happen, what's going to go on. Yeah, if you have any questions, that post should definitely answer you. It's a pinned post on the announcements forum. So if you just go to the announcements section on Weaver Space, you should see it pinned right to the top. I think it's like Foundation 6 upgrade questions or something like that. So make sure you check that out. A lot of more people joining. David and Martin and Pete, thanks for coming in. I appreciate it. Will, thanks for coming from Dublin. Bruno from Belgium. Awesome. A lot of really good stuff there. Is there a free upgrade link? There is no free upgrade link. There is a upgrade path. And all those details are lined out in that post, Dave. So if you qualify for the free upgrade, you're just going to have to be patient. If you don't want to be patient, you can go ahead and buy the regular upgrade. Else you'll have to wait for next week when I send you your free goodies when we launch to the rest of the world. Okay. So anyway, let's get back to business because you guys want to see some more Foundation 6, right? So let's go ahead and start getting some of this stuff ready here. Okay. Let's resize my windows a little bit here. Okay. Make sure you guys can see everything. Oh. Okay, there we go. Now we can see it all. Right? Cool. There we go. Maybe make it a little taller. Oh, go down. There we go. All right. So, Foundation 6. Last week we went over site styles and all of the cool new stuff there. We went over, not thoroughly, but we went over columns and the Grid Pro and a lot of the templates, right? I was hoping to actually have new icons done by today. I've been working for a couple days on those and not quite ready yet. They'll be ready for next week, but I'll probably have them done by the end of tomorrow. So if you're on the Hangout this weekend or on Friday, you can probably get a sneak peek of the new icons that are coming for each individual stack. Each individual stack will have their own custom icon in the library. And also another thing is right now, all the templates are kind of intermixed with the normal stacks. I'm going to pull those out a little bit and kind of have, dedicated groups for those so that they're a little bit easier to find. So they're not kind of intermingling with the normal stacks. So I think pulling those out and having their own separate groups for the templates will be good. I have more templates coming as well. So by next week, I'll have a new set of templates, and that if you have the free template stack, that'll update automatically for you. Okay. But today, we're gonna definitely start off with menus, and I know you guys gonna have a lot of questions about menus. Okay. So we're gonna dive into menus quite a bit today, and what we can do and see how flexible they are in Foundation 6. And as I dive into menus, I'm probably gonna go off into little tangents on other components. And buttons. We'll definitely dive into buttons today. And then if we have time, I'll let you guys tell me whether or not you want me to go into some more containers or forms. So we probably won't have time for both. So we're probably going to have to choose which one we want. So by the time we get to the end, I'll ask you whether or not you want to dive into things like accordions and offsites and tabs, or we want to dive into forms. So, okay. And Dennis, yes, $79.95 is the upgrade price. So upgrade price is $79.95. Cool. Okay. Menus. So the menu system inside Foundation 6 is highly unopinionated. And what I mean by that is, obviously in Foundation 1, the big menu that everyone used or started with was top bar, right? And top bar was great, but it was opinionated, right? It had a very distinct look to it and feel, right? And so in Foundation 6, what I wanted to do is I wanted to make it so menus were not distinguishable. Like, menus don't have to have a style, right? It could just be there. Essentially, at the core, a menu is a list of links, right? And if we just had that component individualized, right, it's just a list of links for us. We can then style it and create the menu that we want, right? And that's pretty much what I've been trying to do in Foundation 6 is to really not have an opinion, an opinionated style set for menus. And I wanted to give you guys the control over that. And while it's still early days, right? I still have a lot of ideas on what we can do and more features we can add and new styles that we can do. Hopefully today you'll see how things are going to shape up and see how much more powerful this is compared to the menu systems that we had in Foundation 1, which were very opinionated, right? We had essentially we had top bar and off canvas were the two big ones, right? Off canvas was a little bit buggy. Right, especially on mobile, and it was kind of funky, and people didn't really know how to implement it very well. So we're going to dive into off canvas and how that's different as well this year, or in Foundation 6. So to start off with, I'm going to go ahead and we're actually not going to look at site styles really hardly at all. So I'm just going to minimize that, and let's go ahead and add in. I'm going to start off with a stack called RW menu. Now, what RW menu is it takes the menu built from RapidWeaver. Okay, so as you know, inside RapidWeaver, we can kind of build our own pages. So we build a page hierarchy over here on the side, right? And based on that hierarchy, RapidWeaver can build out a menu for us automatically. Now, we're going to see what other more powerful options we'll have. But for right now, we're going to look at the RapidWeaver generated menus. Okay. And this is really great because we can actually experiment with a lot of the different menus built into Foundation 6 with this one single RW menu stack. So all of our page links and everything is going to be dynamically generated by RapidWeaver and published on the page. Okay. And you'll notice there's not a lot of settings here. And that's kind of the one of the benefits of, I think, of Foundation 6 is that a lot of the menus are settings are extracted and it's really componentized. Okay. So let's look at these settings here. Let's zoom in here so you guys get a little bit better look. We have, so first off, we have navigation level. So we can say whether or not we want the full navigation, just the top level navigation, because a lot of times we just want the top level menu, right? We don't need any of the sub pages and stuff like that. So that's nice. And then we could also do current sub navigation. And what that does is it allows us to, let's say we're a part of a sub menu and we only want that current sub menu. We can do that as well, right? So that's really cool. And these are all features baked into RapidWeaver. So RapidWeaver is generating this menu for me. And then I'm just purely kind of putting that data into a Foundation menu and displaying it for us. Okay. For this demo right now, we're going to do full navigation. Actually, well, let's start with top navigation. And then here we have menu style. And these are all the available menu types that we have inside Foundation 6. We have a menu. Here, if we just quickly look at what a menu is. So let's just shrink this down a little bit. So this is what just a straight up boring kind of menu is, right? It's just a very simple menu. As you see, I just have, it's not really in any container. If I wanted to put this inside it like some sort of bar or something like that, I could put like maybe some background color on this container, right? Something like that. Really simple though. Okay. Again, it's just the menu, and we can style active pages or not style active pages. Okay, so obviously when we style the active page, we can, it'll be styled like that, or else we can just have it normal links. I find it really, to be honest, like a lot of websites nowadays, they don't style the active pages any longer. I feel like that's kind of an old school thing, not really done anymore. I think it's just because it's easier to maintain. You don't need to have, RapidWeaver makes that very easy because it kind of does it for us automatically. But a lot of websites nowadays don't style the active page at all. It's just a generic menu. So yeah, if you want that kind of that feel, just turn off the style active pages. And if we refresh that, we'll see, there we go. It's just a list of links, right? Now I had this set to currently to use top navigation. And if I set this to be full navigation for this generic menu, it kind of doesn't, be honest, it doesn't really make much sense. Here, let's see what that does. What it does is it kind of just generates this kind of weird static menu, right? It is just static. There is no JavaScript or fancy hover effects or anything like that. It is just a static menu. So normally when you're going to be doing this simple menu stack, you're going to be doing either just the top navigation or stuff like that. Okay. Let's look at what a vertical menu is. So a vertical menu is obviously something that's vertical. Okay. I'm not going to preview all these because we'll see them as we go along. The vertical, why not? Here, the vertical menu is pretty simple. So now vertical menu actually makes sense if you wanted to display the full navigation because it'll actually create like a nice tiered look. So if we, hold on, let's preview. So here we go. We have a nice kind of list of links that's vertical. Now, obviously you wouldn't do this, but maybe like if you had a sidebar on your site, this would look really posh, right? It would look great. And as you see, all the sub menus are all indented. And again, it's very unopinionated. Okay. It lets you as the designer design the site the way you want. It just generates the list of links for us for our navigation, right? And obviously we can style these. We can change the font size and the colors and all that stuff using swatches. And we reviewed a lot of that last week. So if you missed out on swatches, make sure that you check that out, because you'll definitely want to, use swatches to customize. Some people like really fat menus with huge text. You can customize the font sizes and the font families if you want a different font for your families or font for your menus, right? So a lot of that stuff is going to be handled by swatches, right? Which is why we don't need all those settings inside the actual individual menu stacks. Again, the power of Foundation 6 swatches is it allows us to do more with less. It's pretty cool. Okay, so that's vertical menu. Let's go into some of the more fancier menus, right? So we have obviously a drop-down menu, okay? And that's going to be what you might think, right? It's a drop-down menu. So we have drop-downs, and you can have as many levels as you want. Actually, I think it goes up to 4 levels, right? So I allow you to go 4 levels deep. With the RapidWeaver generated menus, I'll let you go 4 levels deep. 4. There's the camera. Okay. So you can go up to 4 levels deep with submenus. When we start doing, I'll show you. I actually have a menu builder in Foundation 6, and you can go as deep as you want with that. Okay. So yeah, here's just a nice drop down. Again, you can customize the look of this, the colors, and all that jazz using swatches. Next up is a drop down vertical. So this is probably useful for if you're using it in a sidebar setting. So it allows you to kind of like have that vertical drop down. So so by default, the menu items are vertical instead of horizontal, right? So yeah, that could be useful. Oh, why did I just close that? And I switched pages because I clicked on it. Didn't want to do that. Okay. Then we have a drill down. Drill down is going to be really great. You'll recognize this. This is drill down was used inside off canvas inside Foundation 1, right? So it's that menu that I think it works really, really well on mobile because you see something, you click on it, and it kind of drills down into that menu item, right? And then you can go back up the menu. So it's kind of like this drill down interactive menu hierarchy, right? So that's a really powerful and great menu. I think it really does work best on mobile or in a smaller container on desktop. So like if you had like a little sidebar or something like that, that could potentially work okay on the desktop level. But I really think it works probably best on smaller mobile devices. Then we do, what's next? Oh, accordion is our last one. So here is an accordion menu. As you might think, you click on it, and it just kind of accordions out. So it's kind of like a vertical menu. Dang it, I clicked on the button. Didn't want to do that. Okay, so yeah, so there we go. We click on it, and it basically expands down. It's an accordion menu, right? This is another really great one. Depending on where you're using it, this could be used anywhere. It's a very nice menu. So those are the 5 or 6 base types of menus. Okay. You can also, obviously change all of the, alignment. So if you want a centered aligned menu, we have alignment. You can also change the style of the submenus. So by default, they're vertical menus. But you can, let's say, for example, if I wanted to do a vertical menu, or let's do left aligned. But then I want my submenus to be horizontal, okay, which is just a menu. You can do something like this, right? So that I have products, and under products, I have AB, and so on and so forth, right? Doesn't look too great, but it could work. Maybe it'll work for you. I don't know. But yeah, it is kind of convenient. And if you can also set submenu style to none, and it'll remove all submenus as well. Kind of the same though if you were just doing kind of doing top navigation. Okay, kind of the same thing. Cool. So those are our, how many? We had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different styles of menus that we have available in Foundation 6. And as you see, they are very generic. Okay. And it allows you to style them the way that you want. People say, oh yeah, vertical menu inside of a glider. Perfect example of how you can use a vertical menu. Okay. Okay. So what is this? This is cool, but I want some more options, Joe. Like I want a more customized menu than what what these RapidWeaver generated menus can do? Well, I might have something for you. Okay. Most people can start here. Okay. But a lot of people are going to dive directly into the individual menu stacks that I've built. Okay. And we'll dive into those, and you'll see how we have a little bit more control when RapidWeaver isn't generating the menu for us. Okay. So what I can do is I'm just gonna remove this RW menu stack, and let's start going through a few of these. Let's start off with the I guess the menu stack. Why not? Okay. So here is just the generic menu stack. Okay. And here, let's just zoom in a little bit. So you see here, you can just you click and you can add as many menu items as you want. You can also add menu headings, which is they're kind of like labels, right? And then you can also do a menu drop zone, which allows you to have basically like a drop zone where you can pretty much add whatever you want within your menu, which is kind of interesting. And we'll show you some real world examples of this in a little bit. Okay. But this menu builder, what's cool is it's identical across all of the different menus types, and you can drag and drop these menu items between menus if you'd like, right? So if I add another menu stack, I can drag and drop these around, and they'll be fully compatible across all Foundation 6 menus, which is cool. Let's look at some of the settings for a menu. So when you go to menu, we can do vertical. If this is a Magellan type menu, if we want to link to anchors on the page, we can specify that this particular menu will do that. Okay. We have horizontal and vertical alignment options. We have orientation. Okay, this is really cool because what this says is we can actually switch this from being a horizontal menu to a vertical menu based on screen size. So we can say, by default, it's vertical, okay, which means on mobile, I want it to be vertical. But then on large, I want it to be horizontal, right? So we can make that responsive. So it's we have a lot more control of, hey, I want a vertical menu on mobile, and then make it go horizontal on desktop, right, or large. And then we can show or hide. It's just visibility is kind of baked in as a convenience. Okay. And if we click on each of these individual menu items, we'll see that they're pretty simple, right? You can set something. So obviously this is a link, right? So you can set your page link, a URL or a link. It's totally up to you. A URL to any URL you want on the web, or to a, you can actually link to a page or a resource or whatever you want. Okay. Just a normal link. Next up is you can add a submenu to this. So if you wanted to add a submenu item, you just click add submenu on that. And then you can also style that particular item as active, right? And what's kind of cool is when you add a submenu, you'll see that over here, it actually adds that for us. Okay. And it starts adding a submenu. And we have a thing here. We can add another menu item. We can add another menu item. We can, add a heading, and it's pretty cool. And all these are drag and droppable because you can just kind of reorganize your menu. If you're like, oh, I want this part of this sub menu, just drag and drop it, and it works. Okay, it's pretty cool. Okay, so that's the menu builder. And let's look at this is just the generic menu stack, right? Which is here. We'll preview this. It's just a generic menu. Again, this is just the kind of the boring link list sort of thing, right? But it's powerful, right? It's a lot of times all we need is a simple list of links. Okay. But let's start looking at something. Let's look at dropdown, which is, I think, what a lot of people are going to use as well. Here, let's just save a little bit of time. We'll just do this. Okay, we added, I don't need these labels. Let's just remove these labels. Okay. Here, we'll just add in a couple. Okay, there's kind of a big menu. So here is a larger menu. And what's cool about not only drop down, but the three kind of more complex menus are four: drop down, drill down, and accordion. Okay, so three. It was three. You can actually morph between them, which is like freaking cool. Okay. Here, let me actually let's do that. So I'm gonna use a drill down. So let's say on mobile I want it to be a drill down. What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna thank God for multi-select in stacks 4. Add that in there. Okay. So let's say I have this menu, and it's a drill down menu. Okay. And if we look over at the settings over here, I can say responsive and I can transform. Okay. And what's cool is I can say the default for this menu is drill down. So small, it's going to be drill down. And then what I can say is on large or medium, I want this to turn into a drop down menu. Right. Pretty cool. So this is going to be a very common thing. A lot of times you want to transform between maybe an accordion to a drop down, or from a drill down to a drop down, right? I think drop down is probably going to be like the go-to for desktops for large, right? But depending on your design, you might want to go for an accordion or drill down on mobile, right? And so that's exactly what we'll do here. So let's preview this really quick. So here on mobile, I have my drill down, right? So I click on it and it kind of, it's an interactive menu where I can, go through all my menu items, okay? But then if we go to, if we increase the size of this browser, okay, eventually. Oops. Hold on a second. Medium drop down. Oh, did I break that? Oh, interesting. It is doing a drop down, but I'm forcing it to be a vertical drop down. Okay. Haha. That's interesting. That's something I need to fix. I'll be fixing that in 605. So yeah, if you notice, it morphed itself to be a vertical drop down, which is not what we wanted. So, whoa, good call on that. Okay. Just proof that I'm doing this all off the fly and I'm showing you guys how everything is. I didn't test that one before today. So, well, I rewrote the menu stacks for 604. And when I did that, I must not have tested that particular component. So that will work. I'll make sure that's fixed in 605. I know exactly what the problem is. Super simple fix. But that'll be pretty cool. So we can morph between a drill down and a drop down menu. Okay. I'm not really looking at the, let's see, any other questions. Make sure if you add questions in the chat box, I'll periodically look down and see if there's anything that I can address while we're talking. Okay. I'm not going to go into accordion. Accordions, same thing, same menu builder, very similar setting styles to drop downs and all that jazz. You can morph between accordion to drill down, accordion to drop down, all that stuff. And you can also modify the orientation. That's what I wanted. Hold on one second. So if I did orientation medium horizontal, that's what I wanted. There we go. Haha. Okay. Okay. So inside here, I fixed it. Nice. So we have a drill down. And in that, if we look here, I wanted my orientation because it's vertical by default, right? And we want to morph so that on medium, the menu goes horizontal. Okay. So we do medium horizontal, and then we do transform medium drop down. If we want it to be large, we can do large, right? So we can do large horizontal, large drop down. Okay, there we go. And there we go. So now we got on large, we have our drop down menu. And if we go down, there we go on smaller devices, we now have our drill down menu. That makes me feel much better. Cool. I've implemented this stuff at such a rapid pace that, I don't use every stack on a day-to-day basis now. So there we go. That's pretty cool. Glad we figured that out. Can you change the background color of one menu item? That is a fantastic question, actually. Okay, so because every single menu item in here has a class, okay? So you can add a custom class to a particular menu item and give that class a background color. And boom, you're done. Custom background color. You can do custom font colors. You can basically customize one particular menu item any way you want, because we have class fields on each individual menu item. So it's pretty cool. So great. One other menu item, actually one menu thing I didn't go over at all is breadcrumbs. So We do have RapidWeaver generated breadcrumbs. So this will use RapidWeaver's generated breadcrumb. To use the RapidWeaver generated breadcrumbs, there is one small caveat, which always gets everybody, because breadcrumbs won't work in RapidWeaver unless you go into I think it's in the advanced settings and say display breadcrumb trail. Right there. Is this first one? Why does that require a setting, a checkbox? I don't know. It's for backwards compatibility. Apparently they don't want to remove it. So, yeah, if you want to use the RapidWeaver generated breadcrumb trail, make sure that you do that. But if you're good building out your own breadcrumb, then we obviously have a menu builder for that. Okay. So there is a breadcrumbs stack, and you can go in here. You can add as many items as you want. Set up your links and all that jazz. You can also use as a label. So you can set one as a label, which basically means it's not clickable. Okay, it's not a link. And if we just preview that really quick, you'll see that that's what the breadcrumb trail looks like. So there we go. Cool. Now let's look at some of the I'm going to skip the top bar stack right now because I'm going to show you some of the menu templates that I've built. I plan on shipping a lot more, but here's some really, really good menu snippets here. Okay, so let's do this scroll to nav. This is a really simple one. It's big, but it's simple. So this scroll to nav is an example on how to build out basically like a one-page navigation. Something that used to be called Magellan, right? It just basically click and anchor links to pages. So let's look at this really quick. Okay. So here we have, if you see at the menu at the top, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And if I click on 3, it animates and scrolls down to section 3. If I click on 5, it scrolls to 5. I have a button down here at the bottom that allows me to say back to top. I can click on that and it takes me all the way back to the top. Or I could have clicked on 1 here and that goes up to there, right? So this is just a really simple way of doing, in-page linking to things. And let's look how to implement this really quick. And again, these templates are super powerful because you just drag and drop it on the page and you see how it's implemented, right? You see how it was done with the stacks that we have, okay? Now, a lot of these swatches that ship with this are purely to do these containers, right? To do these, so they're not really used for the individual, they're just styled for this demo basically, but they're fun to see. Okay. The only one here is I'm styling. Here's a perfect example of how I'm making the menu bigger, right? So let's look at the menu here. The menu is just a normal menu stack that has 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and they're links. Okay. And if you look at the link here, it's just set to be #5, okay, which is where I'm linking to on the page, right? So that section of the page. So how do I create these? Okay, so here I've set links to, if you look at this one, there's #1. This one links to #2, so on and so forth. Okay, we can see that in the link settings. So something that's probably been overlooked by most people, okay, there's two ways to do this. First off, there's an anchor stack, okay, which is in the navigation. It's called anchor, okay, and that basically allows you to define a point on the page that you can link to, okay, and you just put in the anchor ID and you're done, okay. So that this button at the very bottom of the page where I said scroll to top, guess what? That links to this anchor that I defined an anchor of top. Now I haven't dived into buttons yet, but this is an anchor button. There are a lot of different buttons now. And this anchor button purely has the anchor ID set to be top, right? So you set this anchor ID to this button to be top, and that links to this anchor, which has an anchor ID of top, right? So you just make sure those two things are the same, and boom, you're done. Next up is, how do we create the individual sections? So here I have section 1, here I have section 2, here I have section 3, so on and so forth. And you'll notice that I don't have One thing I could have done is I could have put an anchor stack, and could have put an anchor here that was set to 1 or 2, and put an anchor here that was set to 3. But one thing that Foundation 6 tries to do is it tries to reduce the amount of stacks that we have on the page. And even though it's something simple as an anchor, a lot of times when we're creating sections of things that we want to link to, we're gonna have a container there, most likely. So what I did is inside the anchor stack, there's actually an anchor ID built into the container stack. So here I have this container is set to an anchor ID of 1, right? So here I have this is the container that has the number 1 section. If you look at the settings, I set the anchor ID to be 1, and so on and so forth, right? Here I have the anchor ID of this one, it's set to be 2, and the anchor ID of this is set to 3, right? So this is a really simple way. And then to link to that, purely, let's say for this number 3, I click on this menu item, and if I set the link, this is pretty generic stuff. We've probably seen this a lot before. But you just do hashtag and then 3, and then that will link to that section or that container for us. Really, really cool. And what's cool is this also works on page load, right? So if it's baked in, if I just do hashtag 3 here, right? So if we'll look at that, here's my URL. I just put hashtag 3 at the end. Okay. If we do that, we'll notice that it loads to that point of the page directly. So this is integrated directly into the theme. It is just hard coded. You can easily link to sections of your pages just by adding an ID to a container. Really cool stuff. Okay. So someone asked, how can we make a floating menu? Because if you notice, this particular one is floating, okay? Or it's fixed to the top of the page. So I have 2 things that I haven't shipped to you guys yet that will happen. The first one will be a position swatch, okay? In this particular example, what I did is I just have some CSS in here that does what we want, but I'm going to have a position swatch in there, okay? Originally, I wasn't planning on doing a position swatch because I have Target, and Target is like a really, really great positioning tool. And there will be a swatch for Target coming as well. But I thought it would be really great to just provide at least a simple positioning swatch for, things like this, where I just need it fixed to the top, so a really simple positioning swatch where we can do that. Now that'll happen in the next update. But probably in 6.1, I will have sticky, options. So we'll have the ability to, as the menu scrolls up, it'll stick to the top of the page and stuff like that. That's something that it won't happen by next week, but it will definitely happen. And we'll get sticky options for menus and pretty much anything. It'll be a very generic sticky thing so that we can make anything you want sticky. Okay. But menus are going to be a really big part of that, obviously. So that's how I did that. Okay. I think that pretty much goes over this entire. Oh, one thing I skipped over really quick is this particular option here. If you notice, this menu is rather large. The text is pretty big. And this shows you a perfect example of how I did that. Okay. I just added a font style swatch. I set the component to be menu. And then I just set the font size to be 24 pixels. Right. Pretty simple. You can set the size to be different on different sizes if you needed that. But pretty simple stuff. Just set a font style. And then I just set this to be used. You don't need to use a class because I use the components option that's baked into swatches. I think I went over that last week, didn't I? I'm pretty sure I went into the components where you can just choose existing components in Foundation and you can just target a menu right there. Right, pretty cool. Sweet. So this example actually did a lot, right? It wasn't just showing us how to use the in-page linking, but it kind of showed us how to do the buttons and how to use anchors and stuff like that. So that's really cool stuff. Okay. Let's look at some of the other menu templates. Here we have, this is probably the number 1 requested feature that I ever had for Top Bar. Okay. And that was people wanted the ability to have a logo in the middle of their menu. Okay. And so here is a template that I created that what it does is let's see what it does. Okay. So here we have a menu where I have menu items and I have a nice logo in the middle. And then as I shrink down to mobile, what it does is it kind of, the logo that's in between the menu items is hidden. And then I show the one above it on mobile devices, right? So really cool stuff there. Let's look at this really quick. Here, let's actually, if I do. Oops. Now let's make it full width of the browser here. Oh, one thing I should note is a lot of these templates ship with a swatches stack. Okay. If you like, you can migrate all those. Oops, I didn't want to do that. What you could do is you can select all of these and you can just drag them into your into site styles if you want. Okay, you don't need to keep this swatches stack on the page. This is just kind of convenience. It's a nice way for me to ship swatches to you within side of a template, right? So you can keep them here and use them as different ways of organizing your swatches, or you can just, you can easily just drag and drop those right back up into here. Okay, so it's totally up to you. Okay. Let's hide that. Okay. So here we have a container, and inside this container, I set it to be a background color, right? So in this example, I had a background. I set it to be a class of my menu, and then we set the background color to be the swatch color light gray. So it's set to use this color right here. Okay. So again, I have a background swatch. Okay. If we look at the settings, I set the class to be my menu, and then I set the background color to be a swatch, and I chose my color to be light gray. Okay. And then what I did is I just, on my container stack, I set the custom class to be my menu. Okay. And we now get that gray background, right? So if I preview that now, we have our gray background on our menu. Okay. If I wanted, I can go to this, and let's say I wanted this to be the alert color just for kicks, and you'll see that'll make it red. Obviously that doesn't look great for this particular demo, but we'll keep it to light gray. So then what I did is inside this menu stack, I added a couple menu items, and then this is that drop zone, this menu drop zone here. Okay. And then inside that drop zone, I added an SVG stack. Now I haven't reviewed this stack yet. It is this stack right here. Okay. And it's just a way of inputting SVGs. So if you double click on it, you can just paste in your SVG code. And then inside settings, you can customize the colors and the fill and all that. So if I wanted this to be, let's say, red, right? I can easily do that. I can set that apple to be red. Okay. So I set the fill on that to be red. And then I added two more menu items. And again, you can move this stuff around, but obviously this looks good. Then in your menu, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to set the vertical alignment of the menu to be middle, because by default it's set to be inherit. And if we look at that, we'll notice that the menu items and the SVG are all top aligned, right? But we want them to be center aligned. So we set that to be middle. But again, this template does all of that for you, which is really cool. So you don't need to remember. I'm just kind of explaining now on how this template works so that you know how to do it in the future on your own, right? And if we look at this particular menu item, this drop zone, what it is, I added a custom class here for hide for small only. This is Foundation has a lot of classes baked in. They're built into the framework. And this is one of them. And there is a helper stack that lists all these for you as well. So I could add a visibility to this, but this is kind of, you might not want to hide menu items very often. So if you ever want to do it, you could just put in this class into there, hide dash for small only, and that will hide this particular menu item. And then what I did above the menu is I had a visibility stack that says show for small only. And then inside there, I have the same exact SVG. Okay, so here, actually, if I wanted, we can color it red. We can do that. Okay. And if we preview that now, we'll see that I have my menu here. And if we go mobile, it then goes above. Pretty cool, right? So that's nice. that's actually pretty big. It's really cool. It's really been asked a lot. More flexibility with this stuff. So with this menu drop zone, it's really going to allow you to do a lot. This is just one idea of what you can use it for. I'm sure you guys do some crazy stuff that blows my mind, and I can't wait to see what you guys can build with this menu drop zone and doing some really crazy stuff. You can also do things like, maybe you want to add a button to your menu. That's how you could do that as well. Like maybe you want to have a button that clicks to, a sign up button, or you could probably even put a whole form. I haven't even played with that, but maybe like a sign up form or a search box or something, right? It's all kinds of crazy ideas you could do with this. So, really cool. Now, last but not least, I noticed, man, I've gone for 45 minutes on just menus, but, we have the granddaddy of all, and, the one we've all loved from Foundation 1. Let me just clean up a few things here. We have top bar. And I have a top bar template to show us how we can use top bar. Okay. So here's the top bar template. And it's just a sample implementation of what top bar can do. But before I confuse you by showing you this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a top bar stack to the page. And what top bar now is, top bar doesn't have any menus. Again, because I want you to be able to control what menus you want, right? Top bars is simply a very specialized 2-column stack now. And it allows you 2 drop zones. You could have 2 different menus, or maybe in my example, I have an SVG, an image in one side, and my menu on the other side. And I had this drill down menu on small, and then on desktop, it goes to a drop down menu, right? Actually, the same exact menu I just showed you guys earlier, right? The menu, I figured this out before. So we had a medium horizontal, and then we transformed to a drop down menu on medium, right? And then top bar has this. There's actually 2 components to top bar. There's the main top bar, and then there's this title bar, which you can show on mobile, which has this hamburger menu. Okay. So let's go ahead and preview this so we can kind of see what this does. There we go. So here we have kind of like the generic top bar that we had before, which is just, we have a logo over here. Maybe you could put if you want site title or whatever, right? Again, this is just, you could put whatever you want into it. And then we have our menu system over here. And then once we go down to small, we'll see that it morphs to the title bar. And then then we have our drill down menu. So when we click on it, the drill down menu goes down, and we can then drill down. This is kind of what top bar was originally, right? So this allows us, this is basically a replica of what top bar was for us in Foundation 1. Pretty cool stuff. Okay. But again, because if you just wanted a simple menu, maybe you didn't want the full drop down, it's really up to you. You can add whatever menu stack you want into here, right? So if you didn't want to drill down, maybe you just wanted a generic menu, right? And that's okay, right? And what we could say here is, let's say I have a menu where I want it to be a vertical menu, and then on medium, I want it to be a horizontal menu, right? So there we go. There's our vertical menu. Maybe we could center that if we wanted to. And then on large, it then goes to a horizontal menu, right? Really, really simple stuff. Yeah, the example that comes in the template is one of the more complex examples that has the drill down to the drop down. And that's important because a lot of times it's harder to figure out the complex stuff. So I try to do that for you inside the templates. Cool. Let me get a quick drink of water and look at the chat box. Paran says that, or Flo says that he thinks Foundation 6 is brilliant and that it's perfect for what he wants to convert his hand-coded site to RapidWeaver. Cool, thank you. Since the nav system is basically buttons, can it be used to align social media icons? You know what? That's actually a great idea. You totally could. you'd have right now, you'd probably, I don't have a great solution for you to insert Font Awesome 5 icons in there, but there's nothing stopping you from adding icon code directly into the menu items and making them social media icons. Totally possible, right? Or you can use the SVGs and do that. That's actually a really brilliant idea, Jody. I will create a template out of that. Cool idea. I like that, Jody. Let me hold on. Before I forget that, I'm going to add a quick note to myself. Quick note. Cool. I added that note to myself. Now I won't forget. I will make a template out of that idea. I think that's a perfect idea. So great. Where are the templates? Templates are on Weaverspace. There is a free download to them. So go get them now. It's on the Foundation Early Access group on Weaverspace. So go check those out. And Diego, yes, that was a great question from Jody. And I agree. It's a great idea. We're running low on time. I'm not going to try to replicate it here. Totally possible. Just imagine that same menu that I just built with the Apple, with just a Twitter and a Facebook and a YouTube, right? Same exact concept. Totally possible. Really simple to use. So good stuff. Or you could just use a 2 or 4 column stack. Yeah, you could do that too. So yeah, cool. Okay, man, I didn't dive into buttons at all. Buttons will be really quick. In Foundation 1, there was a button stack, and it did everything, right? You could use it as a link. You could use it to launch a lightbox. You could use it to submit a form. You could use it to reset a form. You could use it to do all kinds of other amazing stuff. And that always, I think that confused a lot of people because they're like, okay, I want a button that's a link. I want a button. Where's the submit button? And they just didn't think that there was a button stack that did it all, right? So what I've done is I've split up the buttons functionality into different stacks. Okay, so we already saw the anchor stack, which is just a button that links to an anchor point on the page. So if you want to link to an anchor, you add the anchor button to your page. Okay, the normal button stack, just a straight up button, is used for if you want to launch things such as a lightbox or a drop down or an off canvas, things of that nature. Okay, so if you want a generic button, or if you wanted to, integrate with some other external stack that needed custom attributes, you can do that too. Okay, so the button stack is just a generic button. Button groups are a little different. Close is a close button. I'm not going to dive into that right now. It's basically if you add a lightbox to your page, there actually isn't a close button in there by default. So you can add your close button. So that's that. And here's actually a template here that I have that is a button with a lightbox with a close button inside of it. So here's like a little template for you guys for how to open up a lightbox, right? So we have a normal button stack that's set to be open lightbox. Then we have a lightbox stack that has the same lightbox ID that's set inside the button. Okay. And then inside the lightbox, I have a close button, right? Because sometimes we don't want a lightbox closable, right? So that's why I wanted to make that an optional thing where you can have a close button or you can not have a close button. It's really up to you. Okay. If we just want to preview that really quick, we'll see that we can open our lightbox. And if you notice now, we have a lot of really cool, more animations now with the lightbox that's built into Foundation. So that's kind of one of the cool new ones that I like. It's called Hinge. Just kind of hinges down. It's really cool. Okay. So continue on with buttons. We have a hamburger button, which I think I used really quick last week. It's a hamburger, right? And we can do custom sizing on it now as well. So we can kind of, style it and do custom sizing. And it's just a hamburger. So we can click to open up a mobile menu and stuff like that. Right. What would we use this for? So transitioning from menus, okay. Another popular menu type that we have, let's say on mobile, okay, is a lightbox menu. So I have a hamburger that opens up a light box, right? So let's say I have a light box here. Inside my light box, I want, now I'm going to create this as a template actually, but just kind of show you how this menu system is going to work for us, right? I'm going to create a menu on the fly here. So we're going to, I'm going to make this a vertical menu. We're going to center it. Okay. Centering doesn't work inside edit mode, but it will center. And maybe we'll vertical align middle. Okay. And then we have it in our light box. And we want to add a close button to our light box so we can close the menu. So we have a close button. And this hamburger, we're going to want to open a light box. And the light box ID is lightbox 1. Let's just call this menu. And over here, I'm going to call this menu or menu box. Let's call it menu box so it doesn't conflict with anything else. Box. So I've the light box ID in the hamburger is going to open up the light box that, with the same ID. Okay. Let's preview that. If I click on my hamburger, it opens up my menu with all my menu items. Okay. Now, a lot of times on mobile, right, we click on it. On mobile, we want it to go full screen just like that. Wait. Cool. Okay. So that's kind of a really cool, I'm definitely creating a template out of that. And maybe you didn't see those menu items. They weren't vertically centered in the light box. I'll make sure that happens too in the template and stuff like that. So yeah, just just another idea of how we can take these menus and really build our own, right? So we have a form submit button, a reset button, and a button we're probably going to use a lot is link, right? So if you just want a button that links to something, whether that's a download or another web page or something like that, that's what the link button is for. And then you can set to be whatever your link is. What's cool, there's actually some really cool features of this link button stack. Let's look at those really quick. One that I like is this force download. Okay, so if you're linking to a PDF file or if you're linking to anything, if you have force download enabled, it'll force that file to be downloaded by the browser instead of opening that file in the browser. So that's really cool. There's a lot of other cool little advanced features in here, but that little one right here, here's some hreflang stuff. So if you're doing multilingual sites, you can set your hreflang for your links and stuff like that. Else, this force download button is one of my favorite new settings. Really cool. People will love that. It's been requested by quite a while. Okay. Man, I am really low on time, but I'm going to keep going. Man, I really wanted to show off canvas today. I'm going to do off canvas because I wanted to show it off today, to kind of show you how cool off canvas is. And then I'll dive really quickly and give you a brief overview of forms. Okay. So off canvas is, as before, we knew off canvas as a menu before, but now it's a generic kind of container, and it's really cool. It's very cool on what we can do with it. So we're going to add off canvas to the page. And what we're going to do is I'm going to add all of my site content into off canvas. We're going to do what the traditional off canvas was before, right? Where it moved the entire page over. And what I can do is here, I'm just going to do just for simplicity, I'm going to do a RapidWeaver menu, and we're going to set it to be menu vertical, top navigation only. Okay. No style, no active page. Okay. So I have in my panel, okay, where off canvas is going to be paneling, or where it's going to put the menu. We want to have a menu. Oh, and we need a trigger in off canvas. So why don't we, here, let's do that with a hamburger. Let's continue using the hamburger button. So we're going to put a hamburger button right here. We'll make it a little bit bigger. Here we want to open an off canvas. Here, just so you can see, I set custom sizing on the hamburger. We're going to open up an off canvas, and that's the same default canvas ID. We're just going to call that good. Okay, so that hamburger will open our off canvas. Now, if we look at the off canvas, we have an off canvas panel. And here we can actually define where we want this panel to be located. Default, let's open it on the left and we'll see what that looks like. So if we click on this, that menu isn't vertical. Hold on there. Let's do that. That's weird. Menu vertical. Oh, there it goes. Okay, I was probably browser cache. Okay, so now we click over and we have our vertical menu. But this is a generic drop zone. We can put whatever we wanted in there, right? We could, let's say I wanted to have an Apple SVG up there, right? Maybe we scale the image down to, maximum of 100 pixels or something like that, right? All right, so now we have our Apple. Well, that's too big still, but you get the idea, right? Maybe, probably even smaller. That's just bugging me because it really looks horrible. We want to align left. Okay. Maybe we put in some padding or a container in there to pad this a little bit more, but you're getting the idea. This is just a generic container. We can use it for a menu, but you can put whatever you want in there. So this kind of turns into Glider, actually, to be honest with you, right? It kind of turns into Glider. It kind of turns into Peekaboo. It really is powerful. Now, by default, it moves the entire page, right? But we can make this actually go animation instead of push. We have overlap. So over here we have animation, and we can actually say we want it maybe open on large. So maybe we want it, let's say on large we want it opened by default. Okay. Let's see what that is. So we overlap and then open on large. Let's see what that does. So we're not on large now. We're probably on a medium size. If we click on it, what you'll notice is off canvas overlaps the content instead of pushing it, right? So this is really Glider now, right? So there we go. So that's really cool. And then if we go to large size, what you'll notice is it is now open on large. And what that means is it's now like a sidebar now. And you can't actually close it. It's static. So probably what we need to do is we probably need to hide this hamburger button, okay, on large. But now we have a sidebar, right? And this could be menu or it could be whatever content you want, okay? But it's open on large by default. And then it collapses automatically on medium or small. And it comes in from the side. Now, let's say we didn't want it to come up from the side. Maybe we wanted it to come from the top. So now when we click on it, it comes in from the top. What? Really cool. Right? And maybe that menu was, or we need to center it. What? Obviously, the apple would need to be centered as well, but here, let's just delete the apple. Right? Really, really cool stuff here. And you see, you can actually have multiple of these as well. So if you click on the plus button, you can have a canvas on the top. You can have a different one on the bottom. You can have a different one anywhere you want, right? It really is up to you. You can have up to 4 of them because you can have one on the left, right, top, and bottom. You can give each one different IDs and launch or open them with a button or a hamburger or whatever you like, right? So off canvas is really, really, really cool. Can you adjust the drop shadow settings? That's something that's coming. Right now, the shadow settings, there aren't any settings for that. But you could probably tweak that with a shadow swatch if you wanted to. I haven't played around with that, but that's something that's on my list of things to do. Is to tweak the shadows and whatnot, give you that level of control. Cool. Now, off canvas is more powerful than this, right? So what I've showed you is pretty cool already. But what if we didn't want off canvas to like be interactive on the page level? Like, what if we wanted it like a little container that's cool, that's kind of in the middle of our page, right? Here, let me go ahead and I'm gonna move this up here. Just give me a second. Let me tweak this a little bit. What I'm going to do is I'm going to have that. I need my hamburger. Hamburger down here above the quote. What the heck? Okay. Inside the off-canvas panel, I'm going to put this picture. Okay. This one's going to come in from the left. I don't want this fixed to the canvas browser. And I actually want it to, yes, I want it to push and I want it closed. Yes. Okay. So what this is going to do, okay, is, here, well, let's just show you. here I have my content, which is a quote. This really isn't very real life world situation here, but I have a hamburger menu that's above it. Maybe a button would have been smarter, right, or looked better. But when I click on this now, what you'll notice is we just have this isolated instance of off canvas, right, where it's now coming in from the side. Okay, if you're noticing that border is actually a part of the quote, because quote, it's a block quote, and block quotes have borders. So yeah, maybe that's a way of show who made that. Well, I didn't make this particular quote, but there you go. I see it's a very generic container. It can be used across the entire page, as we've kind of been used to what off canvas can do, but we can use it other ways as well, right? And let's say instead of on the left, I wanted this to come on from the right, right? So now if I do that, the picture slides in from the right, right? Pretty cool. I like it. It's going to give us a lot of flexibility and power in terms of really creating some more dynamic layouts and stuff like that. So I'm really excited about this. Cool. I wanted to show off canvas. So I think it's really cool. Now let's dive into forms. And I've already gone over, but we'll definitely dive into forms right now. Do a really quick overview of forms. Because to be honest, it's changed a little bit since Foundation 1, but not that much. We have more options, obviously. So we now have the base form stack. Okay. If you notice the form stack itself now, there aren't a lot of options. Okay. And really you can just turn on autocomplete or autocomplete and stuff like that. And it's just a generic drop zone where we can start building out our form. And there are tons of new field options. So I'm just going to drag these out. We have checkbox. I'm not going to show a data list right now. Ignore data list. Okay. Praise the God. Now we have a file upload button. So I'm sure a lot of you guys and you can actually have multiple file upload buttons, and it's actually really cool. Okay. You can have hidden data just like we did before. We have honeypot. Honeypot is something new, and that is a way to bat bots. So it's a way of I think it's a better way than something like reCAPTCHA, which there is a reCAPTCHA stack. Although it doesn't work right now. At least I haven't tested it since I did a lot of work on forms. So chances are reCAPTCHA might not be working right now, but the rest of it should. Something new. Here's a new one. We have multi-select now, so we can have a multi-select box. We still have all the same really cool option templates that we had from Foundation 1. So those are really cool. We have numbers, we have radio buttons, we have range sliders, we have a select box just like we did before. We have switches like we did before as well. So there's a lot of various things. And all of these obviously have a bunch of settings in them as well, right? I'm going to go through the text input one in a little bit, kind of go through the details there, because text input actually is probably one of the more complex options because you can do so much with a text input field. And I'm gonna ignore these form extras really quick because we'll look at those in a little bit. Okay, I'm gonna start from scratch with a new form. So let's add a text input here, and I put an absurd amount of work into accessibility in forms because I'm sure a lot of you have known now, not just in forms but across all of Foundation. But forms in particular are extremely important to be accessible. And that's an accessibility. If you're not familiar with that term, it basically means, make sure that people that are blind or that or whatever, those people most likely blind, right, is kind of what we think for websites. But we got to make sure that those people can actually use our forms and interact with our websites, right? And I put a lot, like a crazy amount of work into accessibility on forms. And they're like, it actually makes it on your end. Yes, there's a lot more things and details to implement. I automate as much as I can for you, but yeah, it it is definitely a little bit more work now because we have to make these fields accessible, and that means providing data. Okay, so let's look at what I mean by this. So we have a text input here. You notice at the top we have a label. At the bottom we have something called help text. Okay, which allows us to give a little bit more data, and we still have placeholder as well, a placeholder value. So we can provide all that inside the settings. So we have obviously the field name, so that's the name of our field and stuff like that. We can provide an actual default value. Here is where we define, this is kind of our assistive attributes or our accessibility stuff. So we have label, which is the label that's up at the top. And then we have help text, which is more description on what that person should be doing with that field, right? Now, if you really don't want to display this data, okay, you'll notice that there are checkboxes here. And so what it'll do is when you check these boxes, it'll only, that data still exists on the page, either while you can't see it, it exists for screen readers so that people with accessible browsers can still be told about that data, right? So even from a design perspective, you might not want that data to be shown. We still need to supply it for an accessibility reason, okay? And then we have a lot of really, really cool interface options. And auto suggest, what this does is, when you go to a form and it suggests what data you might want to fill in that form, like, first name, last name, this is the email address, stuff like that. Okay. You can define that. So you can define each individual field with all the compatible, auto suggested fields that browsers support. So you can, automatically fill in the first name or the full name or middle name, stuff like that. Right. So that's really cool. Next up is keyboard type. So have you ever been, I'm sure you have been, right? Because it drives me nuts all the time, where I'm typing in my email address or some password or something like that, and the field defaults to uppercase letters for the first word. Drives me bonkers, right? So a lot of times what we can do is we can now, this is the keyboard type. So this defines when you're on your iOS device. If you ever noticed when you're entering a password or an email, the keyboard actually changes. Okay. And so like if you define this as an email field, it'll have like the @ symbol next to the space bar, stuff like that. So this allows us a lot of control. The default is just plain text, which is just the normal keyboard. But if you want to go really down into it, you can really define the actual keyboard type. For example, if this is a phone number, you could put in a number keyboard so that only the number keyboard shows up. So it really makes it easier for mobile users. Next up is auto caps. This is one I was going off on a rant earlier, where you can now define whether or not the first letter of sentences are capitalized. There's no capitalization at all. For, let's say, email, you don't want capitalization at all, at least by default, unless someone explicitly types a capital letter, right? So now we can tell the keyboard of the devices that we're using what type of data do we want them to, or how do we want the keyboard to behave. So that's really cool. We have minimum, maximum character limits. Obviously, tab, we can make a field read only and all the other jazz, right? And we have all kinds of form validation stuff. Okay, so the form validation stuff's really cool. It works a lot nicer in Foundation 6 than in Foundation 1. I'm not going to have time to really dive into that right now. I'm not going to build out a form validation example, but just to let you know, that. So, okay. Let's look at a few. There are 3 form templates that have shipped with Foundation. Oh, I should also note what types of actions do I have now with Foundation forms? Out of the box, we have email action. And what's cool is you can add as many of these as you want. So if you want to send out 4 or 5 different emails based on one form being submitted, you can do that, right? Really cool. Okay. Next is you can do a custom post URL action as well. And that's kind of a more advanced thing, but people that use that is definitely very useful. And that's a feature that came from Foundation 1 as well. If we look at email action, it's really cool. So we have a lot of the same power that we had from Foundation 1. So we can still use the little templated text. So if we want to insert the content from the form into the actual email, we can do that. the custom email template stuff is really cool, because it's now defined here inside the settings. And what's really slick is we can actually provide markdown in this. So if you just want a simple email, like a lot of times markdown is really, really great for that. So you can type out your email template in markdown. You can use HTML email as well if you like, but markdown will be a really convenient way to do that. And then we have, from address to address, admin emails if there's any issues. And then we have reply to, CC, and BCC. What's really cool about all these fields, to address, CC address, and BCC address, is you can supply a comma delimited list of emails now. So you can send these emails to as many people as you want, right? So if you want to send it to 5 people, just do email, comma, email, comma, email, so on and so forth, right? So really, really cool stuff there. And if you need a custom SMTP server, you still have that option as well. So right now, out of the box, we have email and post. I have more form actions coming. These were definitely the 2 most used things within Foundation 1. So that's what we have now. But we're going to have more options coming up. I plan on having CSV options, so you can upload, or save data to a CSV file. And then also Post Office is going to be getting a major update. And imagine building a form using Foundation stacks and then having that like integrate with MailChimp or ConvertKit, or insert your favorite, newsletter provider here. Well, not all of them, but I'll try to add support for a lot of the major ones. So Post Office will add support for Foundation forms, so you can really have more flexibility with that layout with your form, and use Foundation forms to build the form, and then just have a custom form action that will submit to other third-party services. So cool. Okay, let's look at form templates. This will wrap it up for the day. So here is an example of a 2-column form, right? So a lot of times we want to have this sort of layout in a form where we have our label and then the field next to it. By default, the label is up on top of the form. So it is a little bit more work to do this sort of layout, but it's possible. So this template provides you an example of exactly how to do that. Basically, you have a couple 2-column stacks, and you use an external label stack instead of the one that's integrated into the individual fields. Okay, so next is this is just a generic contact form. Okay, so this is just a generic, kind of a starter form for a contact form where you have name, email address, comments. Okay, this one also integrates some of the components that we haven't talked about yet, which is processing, success, and error messages. So these are stacks that are down here that I didn't show you yet. So this is a success message. So when the form is successful, it's a message that you can display to the user. Processing, this is a kind of a cool animated, circle that, shows that the form is submitted and processing and waiting and stuff like that. So while the form is being saved, this will be displayed. And if there's any errors, this is the error message that will be displayed if there's an error submitting the stack. Okay. So this is just a good, again, a good starter solution for a form, a simple contact form. And then next up is we have an inline subscribe form. So we have the ability to do forms like this that have basically, inline. So we have an input and then a submit button here. We can actually do some really cool stuff with inline forms. Here, let me get this out really quick. It uses this thing called an inline group. And there are some really cool stuff. If we just did it's been a while since I did this. I think if I do label and I say member of input group, I don't know, let's say it's, I'm going to put a $sign, but that doesn't really make sense for email address, but just kind of show you can do stuff like that now, right? Where you can have kind of like these inline labels that are, look really slick and cool. And then you can have a submit button all inline. You can actually have here, you can even go crazy. You can have like multiple text inputs and it'll put everything in line, right? So no matter kind of what form stack you put into the inline group, it'll just make everything one big line. So it's really cool. You can use this as an individual form like I'm using it here. You can use it as, if I were to remove, let's say the button and this, and let's say this was a field in my form that was, a dollar amount or proposal amount, right? Because I have my label. So these inline groups inside forms, it's this inline group stack here, really makes that very flexible. It's really cool. Sweet. Let me dive into the chat box. Let me see if there are any other questions that I skipped. Let's see here. Can you have two different ones and then drop in the same place triggered from different button? I think you're talking about. So Richard Hillsden asked, can you have two different ones that drop in from the same place triggered by different buttons? Yes, you can. Let's say I wanted two different off canvases on the top that trigger from two different buttons. Yeah, you could do that as long as they had different IDs. I'm not sure how it would work if you open up one when one's already open. I'm not sure how that will work. I haven't tested that, but that should work. Okay. Let's see. Can we save the result to a Google Sheet or a MySQL database with an email receipt? I'm not sure about Google Sheet support. I'm very weary about adding support to things like Google and Yahoo and stuff now, because I've been burned so many times by those guys with integrating with their services. I'm not totally against it. Maybe that's something I can add into Post Office, and MySQL support will definitely come as well. Okay, let's say a great session should work well with one pass. Yes, so yes, this should. So all the field settings that I had should make it work very nicely with one password now. Okay, so because you can do autofill and auto suggest with inline form labels. Does it make the boxes all the same length as the longest one? Yes, it does. So it will even those boxes out. So it is kind of that way. You if you didn't want it that way, you could use like a column stack or something like that to kind of build a custom layout. But the input, with the exception of labels and buttons, the inputs themselves will be equal in size if you have multiple inputs. Sweet. Font Awesome 5. So, Aiden, good question. Font Awesome 5 support is coming. I ran out of time. I needed to get this Foundation. I wanted to get Foundation 6 released. And so Foundation will ship with a pro license for Font Awesome 5, which is really slick. But right now, you're limited to basically like you can use the SVG stack that I showed you earlier today, and you can take that Font Awesome code and paste it into there. I do plan on coming up with a more integrated solution for that. I need to design that though, and I haven't yet. So Font Awesome 5 is crazy complex, and integrating it into the product and making it optional to integrate with the product will be a difficult engineering task. So it's something that will be coming, but it won't be coming by next week. Cool. Excellent, guys. My throat is tired now. We went for an hour and a half. Thank you very much. Again, if you didn't get the purchase link, here, I will put it in the chat box again right now. There we go. There is the upgrade link. And again, if you have any questions about Foundation 6 upgrades and whatnot, check out the post that I made on Weaver Space in the announcements thread. And there's a lot of I went over all possible scenarios for upgrades in there and detailed out all the solutions. And thank you, Johan. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Blair. I thank you, Richard. I appreciate everyone that commented today and came. And I hope that you enjoy Foundation 6. I'll have that upgrade link available for a few more hours for people that maybe they're sleeping right now because it's the middle of the night. So I can keep that link open for a few hours. If not, you'll have to wait for next week, because I will ship this bad boy next Wednesday regardless. So hopefully by then we'll have 605 will be the shipped release version. I hope to get that out by early next week to anyone that already has it. We'll have new icons for all these stacks, because right now they're kind of generic. You saw they were all stars and whatnot there. So we'll have individual icons for every stack. We'll have more templates created by then. And I'm really excited about it. I think Foundation 6, I've said it many times. I think that Foundation 6, it will it's going to redefine the way we build websites for the next 5 years. And I full-heartedly believe that. And, Foundation was released 5 years ago, and I think it has a lot of responsibility for where we are today with building sites. And I think Foundation 6 will build upon that and form how we build sites for the next 5 years. And I'm really excited about that. So thank you very much, everybody. Hope you enjoy Foundation 6. Go out and join the early access group and post your comments and questions over there. And we will see you guys next week. Friday. Meet us Friday. Hang out at 1:30 p.m. Pacific. Basically 30 minutes from right now, but on Friday. And you can actually talk with us live. We can interact one-on-one, and we talk about Foundation 6 all you want. So cool. Take care, guys. Have a wonderful week. Go out and make something great. Talk to you soon. Bye.